Good evening and welcome. You're watching Trending Tonight. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. So on the computer, you see these three buttons called Control, Alt, Delete. If you press them together, they perform a specific function. But Control, Alt, Delete is something that has happened in the Indian cabinet also. There's an attempt to control. There is also an attempt to alternate. And definitely, some people have been deleted from the cabinet. So this Control, Alt, Delete cabinet and the big changes will be explained right here, from what is visible and what is beyond what is visible. Let's first talk about Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's private secretary. He's a technocrat, Wharton School educated, IAS officer from Odisha, known to have administrative experience, right? This is what you hear about him. Yes. But there is something lesser known, what is not commonly known, which we would like to bring right here for our viewers. The reason why he has been brought in to replace Mr. Prasad is because the government wants to massively push a scheme called the BharatNet scheme. Now this is very, very close to Mr. Narendra Modi's heart. This time around, the government wants that internet in all villages, that's what BharatNet is all about, internet in all villages is also likely to follow a PPP model, that is public-private partnership model. Who is Mr. Vaishnav? Mr. Vaishnav specializes in this PPP model. So he's best suited for implementing this aspirational pet project of Mr. Modi. Now that's not his only task. Of course, he'll also have to tactfully handle the big tech mess. However, he's gone on record to say, and which we have been reporting since yesterday, one should not make the mistake of thinking that Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad was sacked because of the Twitter mess. It is a process in continuum. Mr. Vaishnav has said the same thing, that they must follow the law. His administrative experience will also be useful in the railway ministry, which is why he's been given these two portfolios. Let's quickly listen in to what Mr. Vaishnav said after he assumed office.
सर आईटी मिनिस्टर के सामने सबसे बड़े कॉन्फ्लिक्ट था ट्विटर के साथ जो पैट चल रहा है, उस पर आपका क्या कहना है? क्या सोशल मीडिया आईटी गाइडलाइंस को मानेगा के जो विवाद चल रहा है उस पर?
आपके सारे के सारे प्रश्न, उन्हीं प्रश्नों में आपका जवाब है। देश के कानून के साथ सभी को उसका पालन करना चाहिए। जो देश का कानून है, देश का कानून सबको पालन करना चाहिए।
लेकिन डेडलाइन को लेकर के तब भी नहीं कर रहे हो।
As you heard, what he had to say is Desh ka kanun sabko palan karna chahiye, which means the country's law is applicable to all, which means Twitter must follow the law. So if Twitter was not the reason for Mr. Prasad's exit, what was? Let's quickly find out. So what do we know about Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad? That he picked up a fight with big tech firms, could not resolve the big tech fight, new minister would inherit this prolonged battle, right? But now it is very clear that it was not Mr. Prasad's decision alone. It is the government's collective decision to make the big tech follow the rule or the law of the land. So what is not commonly known right here on your screen right now? Mr. Prasad was actually struggling to implement that highly ambitious BharatNet program, the pet project of the Prime Minister, which means providing internet in all villages, which had already missed its June 2021 deadline. This was the second extension that it got, and it was still missing its deadline. Also, Ravi Shankar Prasad's functioning as a law minister was put in question internally, which is why it was decided that while he may be a great speaker, he may be a veteran as far as administration in the BJP is concerned, but perhaps he should be replaced by someone else. Let's now talk about Mr. Prakash Javadekar, the other big upset, the other big exit. What was known about him? Well, you do know that he was the face of all the cabinet briefings. He was the face of the government. Any big decision had to happen. Mr. Javadekar was one of the people who would sit in front of the camera and explain and represent the government. Very few of the Vajpayee era ministers also who were left in the cabinet. We still have a few, but he was part of that very depleting group of people. What is not openly known is this. Remember, apart from INB ministry, he also had an environment ministry. And the track record of the environment ministry is said to be very poor. In fact, no major decisions have been taken since March or April 2020. The environment ministry was supposed to have a strategy which was unclear ahead of COP26, which is extremely important for India. So to have a minister who does not have this, or whose department does not have this strategy, is a huge problem. It is also said that he dropped the ball as Environment Minister on ending single-use plastic. Remember how in 2019 single-use plastic and its ban was a big issue, and then suddenly it vanished. But his department or his ministry did not keep the momentum going. At least that's what we have heard. So that is Mr. Prakash Javadekar for you. Now Mansukh Mandavia. Mansukh Mandavia is of course the new health minister. What is known about him? That he's an MP from Gujarat. He represents the Lehua Patel community, which is very, very significant as Gujarat is going to polls in 2022. It is being seen, this elevation is being seen along with Mr. Purushottam Rupala as an effort to shore up support in Prime Minister's home state. But what is not known publicly, or at least very openly, is the following. Mandavia actually earned the Prime Minister's praise as the shipping minister. By the way, he was trolled all day today for his English and also for his credentials. Now, during the peak of the second wave, as the shipping minister, he oversaw the oxygen cryogenic tanker imports, and it is said within the government circles that he did a fairly good job of crisis management, and the key word here is he did it silently. Now, that's the sort of man Modi wants elevated in his cabinet. So that is what Mr. Mandavia's credentials are. Let's quickly listen in to what he also had to say when we spoke to him.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मुझे स्वास्थ्य मंत्रालय की जिम्मेवारी दी गई है। स्वास्थ्य मंत्री के रूप में प्रधानमंत्री जी की अपेक्षा के अनुसार मैं काम करने की कोशिश करूंगा।
All right, let's talk about the state of Uttar Pradesh, where a lot of people are saying that the Bharatiya Janata Party seems to be moving from Kamandal, which is Hindu politics, to Mandal, that is caste-based politics. So you have the elevation of Mr. Kaushal Kishore. What is known about him? Represents the Awadh region in Uttar Pradesh. He is the MP from Mohanlalganj, very close to Lucknow. UP, remember, goes to polls in 2022, so that is very significant. Elevation is being seen as an attempt to provide regional representation of various castes in the cabinet. What is not commonly known, and this is very interesting, ladies and gentlemen, this is the same gentleman who wrote a letter openly criticizing Yogi Adityanath for his arrangement during COVID, and for the past 2 years has been openly speaking, almost an opposition within the BJP to Yogi Adityanath. This at a time when Yogi himself claimed that there is no shortage of anything in Uttar Pradesh. Everything is fine. Mr. Kishore opened up a front against him. Also, Kishore was publicly assured by Amit Shah during election campaigning that make him win and I assure you he'll be made minister. That promise has been delivered as far as Mr. Kishore is concerned. What does this mean for the Yogi-Modi relationship? We will discuss and debate. And last is Mr. Nisith Pramanik from the state of Bengal. What we know about him is that he's young, a young MP. Many were replaced because the BJP lost Bengal. So a reshuffle was meant to give chances to give a chance to newer faces or new names from Bengal. But what is not known, or very few people know, is the reason why he has been elevated as the junior minister for home. He's a vocal critic of Mamata Banerjee. He's extremely impressed, almost in awe of Union Minister Amit Shah. He said so in a reaction today. He's been inducted in MOS Home to work under Amit Shah. And Nisith Pramanik, by being the third MOS in the Home Ministry, could this be a possibility where there will be a specialized central monitoring of the law and order situation in Bengal? You know how much talked about this is as far as the relationship between the centre and the Bengal government is concerned. Let me now quickly introduce our guest this evening. We have with us Mr. Ashutosh. He's a columnist as well as an author. Sudhindra Kulkarni is a writer and a columnist joining us. Thank you very much. Smita Prakash, editor of ANI. And good to have political commentator Sandeep Ghosh also with us. Thank you very much to all of you all. Smita Prakash, I want to begin with you first. A lot has been said through the course of the day that these resignations are perhaps an admission of failure, that something horribly went wrong. That is why Narendra Modi had to go not for a rejig or a reshuffle, but a complete control-alt-delete.
I agree with you to a certain extent that yes, I think without admitting it, the very fact that 12 people had to resign is a clear message that, you know, they admit that something went wrong. They may not speak about it, but they have taken a decision which reflects that reality. And the fact is that I think the message was clear, which every channel is, I think, saying the same thing. It was, the message given was perform or perish, and they did not. So, you know, if anybody in the BJP thought that accountability, delivering on promises, etc., are just buzzwords for the Modi government, they were mistaken. Mistaken even for the BJP guys. You know, I think the message also sent out to the senior people was that if you have been in the BJP for 2 decades and were considered close to the icons of the party, that doesn't mean that you will stay in government, in the Council of Ministers for Kingdom Come. It was a harsh measure, if you see, cruel even, one would say, you know, but on the other hand, you could even see it as a pragmatic decision by a man who's in a hurry, a man who wants his team to deliver, nothing else, a man who wants to make a difference to the lives of every Indian. Now, his detractors might laugh at that statement, because I'm sure they even laughed when Dhirubhai Ambani said that millions of Indians will have a cell phone in a few years' time and Reliance will be doing that. So, you know, Modi believes in that Antyodaya word, that term. It's not just a term for him, it's not just a term for the RSS people in the BJP and the others in the BJP. It really means that the last person has to have the benefits of all government schemes, and that is what he wanted them to do. But the past 1.5 years of the pandemic was a 0 year for the government. So now he's a man in a hurry. He's in a tearing hurry, not just for 2022, as you mentioned, Uttar Pradesh election, not just for 2022, but the entire term, to deliver before the term is over.
Sure. Okay. Mr. Ashutosh, I want to come to you now. Do you think that it will be acceptable to people and they will see Narendra Modi as having taken tough decisions by removing non-performing or non-meritorious ministers, and this criticism will also go that, you know, finally he acted? Do you think that is going to happen on the ground?
Sanket, I think this is a great narrative management. This is a great perception management. There's nothing else. This is the government which is very close to the Mrs. Indira Gandhi's government. In that government, everybody used to say that the only minister who used to work was Mrs. Indira Gandhi. Other ministers had just a portfolios against them. Similar thing is happening with Mr. Modi also. The only minister who works, you can call him prime minister, whatever, that only he works. Other ministers are just there for the name's sake, because that's a constitutional responsibility, so you have to do it. That's the point number one. The point number two, if there is if the performance evaluation, then the 3 ministers which should have been sacked, one is sacked, Harshvardhan. What about Nirmala Sitharaman, and what about Mr. S. Jaishankar? There is the foreign policy of India's foreign policy is in total tatters. There is absolutely chaos in Indian foreign policy. Even Nepal, which is a Hindu Rashtra in certain sense, what's our relationship with them? You go to Sri Lanka, people are unhappy. China has made a great entrenchment there. Bangladesh is very unhappy. Forget about China and Pakistan. What is our foreign minister doing? And what about Nirmala Sitharaman? India's economic policy has been totally in chaos. And normally it's very fashionable to say, since economics of the entire world is in collapse, so why to blame Nirmala Sitharaman or Modi? We tend to forget it because it's small memory, because before COVID hit India, in 8 consecutive quarters, India's GDP was shrinking, and from 8% it shrank to 4%. And there was a serious doubt about India's economic miracle which happened earlier. The Indian unemployment was at the peak in the last 45 years. Government was in denial, did not do that. Now, if Nirmala Sitharaman is continuing, if S. Jaishankar is continuing, and Harshvardhan is made a scapegoat, I can only say that this government is not working on the performance evaluation, but only a perception management.
Okay,
This
still not
perception
working.
management cannot take this
You're
government
saying
forward.
still not working on performance evaluation, and this is
Of
only
course not.
perception. Okay.
See, you see India's economic. India, which was the fastest growing economy in the world. Today, can you count India's growth even
Okay.
among the 100 countries?
Sure. I don't know what the calculation would have been. Maybe the fact that we had a pandemic, and that's why Ms. Sitharaman
Pandemic was
may
entire world
have
was
got
suffering from
a
pandemic.
fresh lease of life. Yeah, one moment. Sandeep Ghosh, I want to come to you now. You know, this point on Mr. Ghosh, the resignations and the manner in which they came. These are very senior ministers. Fine, the government has been able to give this very macho image to the country, to the electorate that, look, we took this decision. We got rid of people who were not performing. Perform or perish, as Smita Prakash says. But do you think that these exits could have been handled properly?
Sanket, why do you say these have not been handled properly? You see, Mr. Modi, as I keep saying, he has a CEO style of operating. And whether it's a CEO or a cricket captain, they have the right to change the team, and not only the right, they may feel the need to change the team according to changed circumstances. So when you go to play Australia, you may be having one lineup. When you go to play England, you may be having another lineup, or Pakistan another lineup. If you're playing a T20, you will be having one sort of lineup. If you go for a test, you'll have something else. So they will constantly keep changing the deck of cards of people at their disposal. Smita was saying, 12 people have been asked to leave. If you look at it in percentage terms, it's 20%. In a cricket team, it would mean 2 players or 3 players. That kind of changes keep happening. And why are we assuming that these people will be in the dumps? Harshvardhan, as I keep repeating, is the only credible face BJP has in Delhi to take on the Kejriwal government.
Okay. So you're saying they'll be absorbed in the organization? They can. I mean, that is an obvious option.
Yeah, he may be, leading the charge there. Somebody said, BJP, we've always said that BJP has a talent deficit. So when the senior people, the talented people move into the ministry, you have nobody to be doing a party spokesperson. Nirmala Sitharaman, you're talking about, Smriti Irani, Ravi Shankar Prasad, these people were the stalwarts when talking to the public earlier. Today, I don't want to take names. They are hugely short of people talking to the press. So Ravi Shankar Prasad could go back on that. There are a lot of things happening with Prakash Javadekar. As you yourself said, Prakash Javadekar has an excellent equation here. Plus, you're forgetting in Maharashtra, a lot of things are happening. And that is Prakash Javadekars backyard or home turf. So I'm saying you cannot conclude that all these people have been thrown into the dungeon. Whereas you're bringing in people with certain competencies. Again, the same analogy of a T20. Now, Smita was saying, yes, he's now getting into a T20 mode for the next 3 years. He has to deliver. And for that, therefore, he is getting people who have high energy, high on performance and high on delivery.
And you have
one point,
you may want to use the experience in the organization whenever that organizational reshuffle, which is also imminent, is going to happen.
Yeah, and secondly, you see, there is no denying, that's when I'm talking about the CEO mode. Let's not beat around the bush. The strategy, the vision, everything is of Mr. Modi and the PMO. He needs people who can run with those ideas and deliver, just like you were giving an example of BharatNet. That idea is taken and somebody has to go and deliver, and they cannot botch it up. So if people have not been able to carry forward that vision or idea, they need to change the run.
In a way, you're answering Mr. Ashutosh's question that it's the PMO which is deciding. You're saying that it is but natural for the PMO or the PM to decide, give the vision and people to execute.
And therefore, it doesn't mean the other people, as Ashutosh was saying, my good friend, that they are just filling up constitutional positions.
Okay. I'm going to come back to Mr. Ashutosh in just one moment. Mr. Kulkarni.
You know,
I'll come to you, Mr. Ghosh, because Mr. Kulkarni has not spoken. Mr. Kulkarni, you tell me that, 7 years into him being the Prime Minister, there was criticism, and to shake off or remove some of that criticism, there has been this big mammoth exercise to remove people and go for a complete overhaul, right? The government has gone into great detail, granular data on who is of which caste, taking care of each and every aspect while rejigging this cabinet. Do you think that this time around, you may or may not have been successful in warding off this criticism, but from here on, if the government does not deliver, it will be very hard for Mr. Modi to blame it on his men, and that criticism will come directly to him?
Sanket, the first and very important thing to be noted about this expansion and reshuffle is that this is Narendra Modi's way of fulfilling his promise of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. In 2014, he promised India Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. 2019, he joined, he added Sabka Vishwas. In this entire exercise, there is not a single Muslim minister, which means that as far as the BJP is concerned and the Modi government is concerned, the Muslims of India do not matter.
There's a Mr. Naqvi, by the way, but he was not inducted. He was not a recent
There is only one person, that is Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, but no new person from the Muslim community, which means that as far as the BJP is concerned, Modi government is concerned, the 14 or 15% of Muslims in India do not matter. They have been disenfranchised, they have been disempowered, and no representation. You talked about a very careful look at caste, subcaste combinations and how it will help them in this state election, that state election, and 2024, etc.
Yeah.
But Muslims don't matter because the BJP has now successfully carried out the vote bank politics of consolidation of Hindu vote bank, and Muslims don't matter. This is the first thing. Secondly, the fact that 12 ministers have been made to resign is not just a matter of individual accountability, but also collective accountability, partial collective accountability of the cabinet as a whole. It means that at least partially, the cabinet as a whole has not succeeded in some of these important ministries, and out of these important ministries, let's take a look at two very critical social sector ministries: education and health.
Health, correct.
Education, in the last 7 years, we have now had the fourth minister. It's such a crucial ministry for the future of India's youth and students, and it is in complete disarray. Health, it is admission of mismanagement of the COVID pandemic. Then there are certain anomalies. Look at the fact that some ministers have been given charge of huge ministries which really require total undivided attention of
You mean IT and Rail, Mr. Vaishnav?
Vaishnav, that is railways and IT, huge ministries. Then parliamentary affairs, urban affairs and petroleum. Then we have the example of Ayush, taken away from health and given to someone else. Ayush, which is Ayurveda and Unani, homeopathy, it's all integral to health, but it's taken away from health. So, and then I must make one more important point.
Sure.
One of the most, performing ministers is Nitin Gadkari, and he is left with only one ministry, and even MSME, which was with him, has been taken out of him.
Has gone to Narayan Rane.
Narayan Rane, and coming to Narayan Rane, he comes from Maharashtra, and 3 of the 4 ministers who have found place in the cabinet, in the Council of Ministers, they are imports from the Congress party, including Rane himself. And the considerations for, rewarding a person like Narayan Rane are well known. I need not go into it.
Okay. Okay, I've run out of time. Thank you very much for your views. Mr. Ashutosh, sadly, I'm out of time. But it's important, this analysis on how to look at this, this big reshuffle. But the most important point that we feel at the end of this all is that now he has 2.5 years, as Smita said in a previous program. In these 2.5 years, if this rejig or this reshuffled men and women and the set of ministers do not deliver, who's going to take the blame? Who's going to take the responsibility? Now you can't blame ministers. The blame is going to reach directly to the Prime Minister. Good night and goodbye.